So I recently attended my first endurance car race, and it was some of the most fun I've ever had racing cars. As an amateur racer just getting into it, a guy with a regular day job, a normal life who just has a passion for motorsports and racing, let me take you behind the scenes and show you what it's like. I think you guys are going to enjoy this. Let's go. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Gabe. I am a regular guy with a day job who has a passion for racing, and I'm trying to race as much as I can. And right now, I'm on a work trip in San Francisco that just wrapped up. It's Thursday night. I'm taking the red eye to Pittsburgh so I can do a ChampCar endurance race with two other guys. This is a crazy week. Let's go. It's one of those weeks where I ask myself, how do these F1 and elite athletes do this, compete at such a high level and travel all around the world? I mean, they are in a totally different boat, but I was in Denver last week for a wedding, then went back home. Now I'm in California, and then I'm going to the Pittsburgh, and I'm pretty beat. I hope I get some sleep on the plane tonight, but I'm super excited. I couldn't pass up this opportunity. So one of my main competitors in my normal SCCA sort of New England road racing region reached out and said, hey, my track buddy has another seat. We're doing an endurance race. Are you available? And obviously my immediate reaction whenever someone asks me to do anything car or racing related is an automatic yes. It's not, do I want to do it? It's, can I do it and still maintain harmony in my household and my bank account? That's the real question. It's not, do I want to do it? I default always want to do it. So luckily, I was fortunate enough to be able to do this. I had to move around some flights and get over to Pittsburgh on the red eye. It was the only way to do this. Tomorrow's a test day. Saturday and Sunday are the races. It is going to be a long weekend. It's already been a long, almost 2 weeks for me, but this is the culmination, and I really got to get some sleep because I'm going to be on the racetrack, and I need to be tip-top peak alertness. So yeah, let me walk you through what it's going to be like. What have I been doing to prepare for this race? So I haven't been to this track. I haven't driven this car. It's a 99 Miata with a whole lot of mods. It's definitely going to be faster than my Miata that you guys are used to seeing, or if you haven't seen it, it's a 93 1.6 liter NA Miata, pretty much stock, but converted into a race car. So how do I prepare? Haven't been to this track. My approach is to immerse myself in as much data as possible that exists about the track, mainly videos, track maps, talking to other people, watching presentations, getting insider knowledge, talking to people who have raced there, who have driven there. In terms of videos, I will watch drivers if I can find drivers who I know are fast, who I know I can sort of trust and I know where they stand, that helps me calibrate what to expect. And so I just watch as many videos as I can. And I start to look at the track map and get familiar with that so I can start to reference the turns in my head. I know, if someone's talking about turn 13 or turn 2 or turn 7, 8, 9, 10, what that sequence looks like. And so that's what I'm doing, just kind of immersing myself as much as possible with all that is available online. Now, if the track is available on the sim, I will absolutely practice that. Luckily, Pittsburgh International Raceway Race Complex Pit Race is available on Assetto Corsa, which I had never used before. I just downloaded. I normally use iRacing. I got the track, had to download it from a third-party website, but I was able to get a rhythm. And going from just watching videos to then racing on the sim makes a big difference. I would say videos for me maybe get me 30% of the way in terms of comfort level and familiarity with the track. And then driving on the sim will take me from, let's say, 30% to about 60 to 70% comfort level and knowledge of rhythm and kind of car placement, what kind of applications I need to give, what kind of inputs. And then actually driving the track will take me from the 60 to 70%, towards the 100% let's assume 100% is like the peak, fastest, consistent driving that I could do at a track. Going there and driving it, let's say the test day will get me probably, hopefully, to about 70 or 80%. And then just from there on out, it's just refining and going from that 80 to 100%. Hopefully I can get well into the 90% in terms of like knowledge and comfort and like at least reaching my limit for driving at this track. It's going to be a lot of track time at the endurance race in the actual race, just given the nature of what an endurance race is. So a lot of the track knowledge will come from the race itself. All right, and if I wasn't tired enough before my red eye, let's take a listen after my red eye, after I landed in Pittsburgh, where I pretty much almost had a breakdown. I was so tired and miserable from a lack of sleep. You know how that can be. Let's take a listen. All right, back at the rental car. I didn't get any sleep last night. 0 on the red eye from California to Pittsburgh. We're here at the track. It's been a rough morning. Like I felt like I was like super hungover. Could feel my heart beating. Anyways, I've been trying to drink a lot of water. I haven't had any time to sleep, but we're here at the track. Cars are out on track. Test day. Driver number 1 is out there with the car. I'm gonna go out next, feel it out. Never been on this track, never been in this car. A lot to get used to, but let's see how it goes. Just gonna work my way up, be safe. Not trying to prove anything, just get comfortable in this car on the track. There you go. Now let's take a look inside the car. This is my first time in the race car, and at this point I'm feeling much better. Adrenaline has kicked in, I'm alert. I know that I'm about to go on track, and so safety is of top priority, so I need to be alert. Let's just see how it goes here. By the way, there were 3 drivers. So Tim, who you see there on the right, and then Bobby. This was Bobby's car. And I found that 3 drivers was really a sweet spot for this race, given it was 8 hours on the first day, 7 hours on the next. It really gave us a lot of, gave us ample seat time. The only area where I think we could have used someone else is during the pit stops, which got a little chaotic. We all had separate jobs. I'll talk about that in a minute. But as far as driving went, 3 drivers I felt was really good.
So hey, door pull. Yeah. You're gonna have to get it with your right hand. It's right here underneath the mat.
Right there?
Yep.
It looks like this.
Yeah, I saw when you were... Yeah. Well, I'm gonna start it up.
How's this mirror?
That's good. This is good. All good. All right, and I'll leave this part in so you guys can laugh at me pulling away. Believe it or not, of all the manuals I've driven, I still stalled it. Not once, but twice. Oh. It's crazy when you get into a new manual gearbox car, the clutch can be so different. This one, wow. The clutch bit so low on the throw. I think it was, yeah, low, compared to like my Ferrari 360, which bites really high, or my own Miata, which is sort of in the middle. Anyways, just kind of funny that no matter how many manuals you've driven, sometimes you gotta recalibrate and get through a couple stalls just to get moving. So this is my first time out on this track ever, aside from doing it a couple hours on the sim, and usually when I notice from going from sim to real track is I'm always impressed. I'm like, wow, that sim practice really paid off. As I approach a corner, I know that I should be turning left and not right, or I know that I should be carrying like a certain amount of speed and not another amount of speed. Anyways, sim practice helped, but then again, you're still very much coming to terms with elevation changes, which are huge, which the sim really doesn't do a good job capturing. Coming to terms with grip, coming to terms with just the reality of the car and these tires on these surfaces. And so still a lot to get used to, but all in all, it's all just about getting comfortable, finding a rhythm, finding my brake points, seeing where I can push the car, and not trying to be a hero because it's a test day and there's a lot of driving coming up and just want to bring it home. But at the same time, you got to push. You got to push to find the limits, to find your limits, to find the car's limits, and you got to find out where that speed lies. All right, so now that I'm prepped for the race, or at least so we thought I was prepped, I want to talk about mistakes. Now, going into this, I had done a couple 8-hour and 10-hour karting endurance races and 2 24-hour sim races, endurance races. And so I had knowledge coming from those. And what I learned during those races was that it is not the on-track mistakes that hurt your position in endurance races. Sure, on-track incidents can happen. Someone may hit you, you may spin, you may crash, you may have to come in, fine. But what always got us on all the teams that I've been on were the off-track pre-race mistakes. Call them stupid mistakes. To be fair, I am not casting any blame because it's a team sport and we're all responsible and there's a lot of moving parts and we're all doing a lot to come together, and between lack of sleep and logistics and this just being the first time we've met each other and blah, 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 mistakes are bound to happen. So this is more just a note to you guys, if you're going to do an endurance race, to pay a lot of attention to this type of stuff before you get on track. So the first thing is just to make sure that everything is set in your car. So going out on track, we realized that our transponder wasn't working. I'm not really sure what happened because I wasn't looking at it the night before, but something happened where Tim and Bobby had to basically re-hardwire it on pit lane as cars were leaving to go out on track. I don't know how to do that kind of stuff, so they took it on. We're splicing wires, reconnecting things, getting the transponder to work. That put us a few laps behind. Now, as soon as our first driver went out, he realized that he didn't have his wristband. I forgot my wristband in one qualifying in my SCCA event. It just kind of happens. You go to different track events. They have different procedures. You sign in. Sometimes there's multiple sign-ins. In any case, he had to go around the paddock to grab a wristband as cars were now going out on track following the safety car before the race start. He gets out on track. He says, "Hey guys, the tires are ice cold." Tim and I look at each other. We say, "Did we set the tire pressures?" Neither of us remembered to do that. He had to come back in. We had to decrease the pressures on all four tires from like 35 to 25, and the deflation took like 2 minutes per tire. All in all, with those three mistakes or happenings, we ended up going out, starting the race 6 laps behind. So just think about that. You're already starting off on the wrong foot, all because of things that probably could have been avoided. Yeah, that wasn't too good. So for the next day, we created a checklist. We were very diligent about creating a checklist, and just anything that would come up on the first day of like setting tire pressures, checking this, checking that, we would put it in a checklist that you physically had to check off. And so the next day, we would just go through that multiple times and make sure that everything was checked off. And ultimately that helped us get on track at the right time, which was starting on lap 1 and not lap 6. And guys, this has happened to me and my teams before in my karting races and I think in some of the sim races. So the point is, you have to take the off-track stuff seriously, because like the on-track stuff, it's really just a war of attrition. There's so much time to race, and as long as you put in clean laps, you don't have to be the fastest out there, but if you continue to put in clean and consistent laps, typically that will get you high up. All of my teams have finished sort of high, or at least most of them in endurance racing. Some of the karting races were like super competitive and we didn't do that well, but it's really this off-track stuff that gets you. I can't stress it enough, guys. Pay attention to the off-track stuff, make checklists, do all your prep work, practice getting in the car, getting out of the car, fueling, whatever you need to do to make sure that come race day, you're ready to go. Now, in terms of the racing itself, it was a blast. I would say about 80% of the cars out there felt like they knew what they were doing, and maybe 20%, or not even 20, maybe just 10% of the cars or just drivers were kind of doing things that made you want to, scream at them. Like they were basically parking their cars at the apexes, way over slowing the cars. And I think with ChampCar, you see, at least in my one experience here, you see a lot of talent, you see some fast drivers, but you also see people who maybe this is their first or second race. They really don't have much wheel-to-wheel racing experience, so you have to be wary. You have to know who's out on track, understand their driving, and all about understanding how to predict people. Given all the track time, I would say I got about 6 hours of track time, 3 stints, just under 2 hours, plus a test day, and it was incredible. I would get out of the car and I would feel just a rush of endorphins. I never felt that in my SCCA racing because they're much shorter sprint races, and I was worried about potentially fatiguing and just really not having any clue how I would do in such a long stint on track. But the fatigue really was not an issue. If anything, I could have done more. The other drivers, I think, could have done more as well. I would absolutely do another one of these ChampCar races in a heartbeat. They're such good seat time experiences for not a whole lot of money, and I would add this to my list from my prior video of how to get into racing on any budget. I would add ChampCar as a great way to do that, because as it turns out, you do not need a racing license. You just need a driver's license, which can be a little sketchy, but generally I think the community polices itself and you won't see total hooligans out there. I would add this to that list. It's a great way to get into racing if you can form a team and you have access to a race car. ChampCar and Lemons Racing, which is kind of a even cheaper version of this, are just two fantastic ways to get into racing. And I just want to give a huge thank you to both Tim, who invited me to do this, and Bobby, who supplied the car. Super fun car. Both of them were a pleasure to drive with, to be on their team. I would totally do it again in a heartbeat. All in all, just a fantastic experience. All right, we're leaving pit race. That was a fun weekend. Could have been the most fun racing weekend I've had. And to top it off, Tim and I just went karting because we couldn't get enough racing. It's 5 o'clock. Endurance racing is done. There's a nice kart track here. Why the heck not? Anyways, super fun. 2 third-place finishes. Lots of driving, lots of seat time in a quicker Miata. I feel spoiled now. That Miata was, I guess, about 150 horsepower with a wing, all kinds of mods, whereas mine's like 96 at the wheels. Anyways, I don't know what this video is going to be about yet, but I guess it's about the endurance race. Hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Check this out. So this cap from the fuel filler, when we were refilling earlier, look where it is. Stuck. Try to get it out with needle nose.
Cork it soon.
All right, go ahead. Here's the wrong way to bleed brakes.
Okay.
I actually haven't seen this method before.